What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast. Today, we're going to talk about what we're seeing is the difference between practices that fail and crumble and shut down within 5 to 10 years and those who are growing to 50 to 100K months in the span of just 3 to 4 years. We've now taken over 100 practice owners through our mastermind program. And every single year we have them support or submit their end of year report. Where were they at the beginning of the year? Where were they at the end of the year? And we have that data across the last 3 years of our mastermind program. And the data that we've been able to pull from that separates the people who are struggling from the people who blow up is pretty incredible. So we're going to cover some of the data that we found from these 100 people and then talk about what our philosophy is when it comes to growing and scaling businesses so that many of you can hopefully not make the same mistakes that Ben and I did as you build your practice and try to secure freedom within your life where you have some peace of mind, your wealth is growing every day, you're paying off your debt, and you're able to spend your time the way that you actually want to in life rather than just becoming a slave to a machine that you built. Ben, you ready to go over this? I haven't even shared this data with Ben yet, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this in real time on it. So I've got a pretty good idea of what it looks like and all that. But yeah, I'm excited to see the actual data and numbers on it.
Yeah. So first of all, folks, most people online, marketers, coaches, they make it sound like business is extremely easy. The way that marketing works is you have to make something super attractive and shiny and sound easy. Otherwise, people aren't really going to pay attention to it. And what that's led to is a bunch of people believing that they're just one Facebook campaign, one consistent workshop schedule, one referral source, one tactic away from unlocking everything that they want to accomplish inside of their practice. But the reality is, it is so much harder than that. For context, if you are a business that's generating $10,000 a month, guess what percentage that puts you at in all of humanity? Ben, you got to guess? You probably know.
I think it's because most businesses are losing money.
Most businesses are losing money. We're just talking about revenue. We're not even talking about profit yet.
Yeah. I don't know. I know the revenue, like the profit stats, it's like less than 50% of businesses are making profit. But yeah, I'm curious on the revenue.
Yeah. It's for revenue. If you're pulling in $10,000 a month, you're in the top 10% of businesses. And obviously $10,000 a month, when you have factor in your expenses and your costs, that doesn't create the kind of life that you actually want to have. What you really want is to be able to impact your patients' lives. You want to be able to take some days off so you can spend more time with your family. You want to be able to pay off your debt. You want to buy that house. You want to buy that car. You want to take those vacations without your revenue falling through the floor. So what you actually need to get to are those 50 to 100K months inside of your practice with at least a 30% profit margin. Now, if you hit that level, that puts you in the 0.5% of businesses and people on earth that are able to do that, which means out of 199 people who weren't willing to do this, you have to be the person that's willing to do what 199 out of 200 people just aren't willing to do because it is extremely challenging. Statistically, only 35% of businesses last 10 years for those very reasons. And a lot of them give up because they've been sold this lie that business is extremely easy, that it's just a marketing problem. You're not generating enough leads. You're not generating the right leads. And so they run in circles until they throw up their hands and they actually give up. But when you find out that business is actually extremely simple when you're data driven and you start to realize that all of these different weaknesses and these systems that you don't have, once you start to see those and systematically fixing them, well, then success becomes almost a mathematical certainty. But it's the fact that everyone's guessing and kind of just the blind leading the blind and people just working on the more comfortable problems to work on that's keeping people stuck. So 35% of businesses never last 10 years. Whereas with our practices, on average, in their first year of working with us, they start, hold on, where are you? There you go. So in their first year of working with us, on average, they grow by 407%. So they start at doing about $8,600 a month on average. After their first year of working with us inside of our mastermind, they average $35,000 a month. And then in year 2 of working with us, things slow down a little bit and they grow by 134%. And so what we're seeing is once you have the right systems in place, once you have the right offer, once you know how to communicate that offer, within 12 months, you see some very explosive growth. But then what's interesting in year 2 is that everything slows down. Everything slows down. But that's because once you have people coming in, once you start selling and you start finding that success, well, now you're kind of in the position where you're wearing all the hats and you're firefighting. And now it's the systems got you there, but now you need to develop the skill sets to manage it and make it operate efficiently. Ben, was there a time when you had an explosive year, but then the following year was like, oh my God, we got to like smooth this thing out a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's like it really happened like actually like around like the 8th or 9th month. I can really see how people get stuck there.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, yeah, I was wearing all the hats and it's like, great, I'm making the revenue that I want. I was able to replace my income. But now I'm doing everything. And so it's really easy to get stuck there because hiring is a big jump.
Yeah.
It's a big jump for people. And so many people stay in that rut of not making that jump until it just becomes unbearable on it. And so that's the thing that I was stuck at longer than I would have liked to be at with that hire. Because also you just don't like know how to hire, what to pay somebody. You know, am I actually ready to lead somebody? Do I actually want to take on the burden of hiring on somebody and being responsible for somebody else's other income? Can I take that pressure? What if, leads start drying up and I can't keep their schedule full? You get all these uncertainties. And so I can also make a case that people are really able to endure pain are able to actually get stuck more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Because they can tolerate the 70, 80-hour work weeks of wearing all the hats. And so if you're a really hard worker, it can actually be sometimes if you don't have the right mindset to be able to get yourself out of that, you can be stuck there for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So that's something that we see too.
Right. And I mean, Hormozi said it like this, where the ultimate competitive advantage is pain tolerance. Because it's not how smart you are. It's not necessarily like how hard you work. It really comes down to how long you're willing to stay in the game, which means how long can you endure the pressure and the discomfort of not knowing, and can you hold on long enough until you reach that level of knowing and have the courage and confidence to actually make the change necessary once you know what you have to do. So in year 2, we find that people grow by 134% compared to 407% in year 1, simply because they are acclimating to their new normal. They are learning how to lead, how to create culture, how to better track our data to work on the right stuff. And then after a year, once the dust settles, in year 3, people on average start out in year 3 at $47,000 a month and end at $73,000 a month because they've learned the systems, they've mastered them, they've refined them, and then they rinse and repeated that process. And once you get there, I mean, it's crazy how so many of our people, they start never thinking that they'd be able to run a $50,000 or $100,000 a month practice. Never think that they'd be able to lead a team. But as the data shows, it becomes almost inevitable when you're not so focused on, what's going to happen too far down the road. Obviously, like they have this like idea in their mind that they'd love to get there. They just don't believe that they will. But when you just track your numbers and follow the data, then things just keep getting easier and they keep growing, and it becomes harder not to keep growing. So all the people that we have that are doing $73,000, $80,000, $100,000, $200,000 a month in their practice, they didn't think that would actually happen. They thought that was possible for other people, but never for them. But then once you're focusing on the right metrics in your business at the right time and solely focusing on those until you hit the right metric, well, then your business just keeps growing and it becomes really, really easy to get to those 100K months, which for all of our people is now their new normal. Like 100K months is completely normal within our program, despite 35% or 65% of all businesses never even breaking through to that like 20, 30K a month, and ultimately shutting down because they give up on it.
Yeah, I think something that's important to highlight, especially for people that are early on, they might not be able to correlate what the monthly revenue translates into yearly. Like Jordan just mentioned, people by the end of year 3 are generating around 70, like that $78,000-$79,000 mark, some even higher than that. 83,000 is $1 million run rate. What I mean by run rate is you take 83,000 times that by 12, that's $1 million. Okay, so within 3 years of starting a practice, on average, people that go through the mastermind have $1 million practice. And some people like that sounds insane. When you break it down, it's simply hiring one physical therapist a year. That's it. You hire 3 physical therapists, you have $1 million, and if you have them full, you have $1 million practice. Yeah. If your pricing's right. If you go through, like if you're going through the mastermind, your pricing's going to be dialed in. If you're doing everything right, you should have $1 million practice with 3 PTs. Yeah. Your insurance-based clinic, that's never going to happen. Be completely honest with you, because you can't control your rates. Again, it comes down to pricing and how you're pitching. But yeah, that's all you need to do. Hire one physical therapist a year, and you're at $1 million within the first 3 years. It's that simple.
It really is that simple. I mean, it's simple, but it's not easy because business is just 2 things. It is math, numbers, and psychology. But most people, they never break through and they're constantly firefighting and their businesses are chaotic and they keep stalling out and plateauing because they think business is just marketing and tactics. So they're jumping from strategy to strategy to strategy when what they really needed to do is 1, work on their own psychology that forces them to do the things that they know they should be doing, like tracking their numbers. When you track your numbers, you realize that your problem is actually something else. And so if you can keep your mind from being distracted, from allowing your emotions to get the better of you and just focus on the numbers, well, then things start to get really, really easy. Most people like almost half of our mastermind members are still trying to figure this out. Like they know they should be tracking their numbers. They're tracking some numbers, but they're not tracking all of their numbers. And those are the people who aren't scaling as quickly as the clients that are getting to $80,000 a month. And so they're still jumping and focusing on like tactics and more leads. And but the ones who are exploding are the ones that get out of their own way, stop allowing their emotions to dictate what they're working on every single day, that force themselves to be more disciplined in managing their own time and focus on the numbers that are right in front of them. And when that happens, hitting, as you said, 7 figures within 3 to 4 years becomes inevitable at that point because you're working on the right stuff at the right time and you're not guessing. So check this out. This is what, based off these numbers, and this is all we teach inside of the program. How do we master our numbers? How do we automate our data collection? How do we learn to interpret those numbers so that we can have the same confidence that we have with treating patients with treating and scaling our business? And the results of that are nuts. I'm not going to spend too much time on here, but they're nuts. There it is. Okay. So on average, people who have joined our mastermind have grown by 8.8x in their monthly revenue. If the median, if we kind of, factor in some outliers, the average client in our mastermind programs monthly revenue grows by 4.2x. So that's the median. That's like the minimum standard that people have because they've become data driven and they're working on the right stuff.
I want to jump in real quick. 4x is 400% return on investment. People are stoked about 8% in the stock market. If there was a stock that returned 400%, the world would be on fire. Everybody would be dumping everything that they could possibly get any money that they could get their hands on, they'd be putting into the stock. Just for context, just right. to just kind of emphasize on how crazy that ROI is.
right? And get this. Our monthly revenue added that our clients have brought in, the average revenue that people have added per month to their practice across all of our clients, what would you guess that number is?
Say it again.
The average amount of revenue per month that has been added since joining Mastermind, just in 2025.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
$1.3 million in monthly revenue across only the clients that actually submitted this survey. So we got 103 Mastermind clients. A little more than half of them have submitted this data, and that's excluding several of our largest clients and some of our lowest clients. So it kind of balances out. But across the people that just submitted this, 1.3 million, $3.4 million added in profit in 2025 across all of our clients. With a net promoter score of a 94, not a single person dropped off from the mastermind. And the average Facebook ads return on ad spend is 5.07x. Across all of our clients, $902,000 spent on ads that we help them manage, and $4.57 million in new patient revenue acquired through Facebook through the mastermind program.
It's nuts.
That's nuts. That's nuts. Now, a lot of programs that are out there, they don't have success rates like this. They're not teaching the granular skill sets and systems that are actually required to build a successful, profitable, healthy business that actually affords people freedom. Most programs are really just teaching, they have one bread and butter kind of strategy, and they just teach that. And if it works, they just say, keep doing it. And that's kind of how you end up with practices that are doing, $30,000 a month, but they're not making any profit. And so they're actually further away from the time autonomy and freedom that they actually started their practice for, even though they're hitting these cool revenue numbers. And so let's transition out of talking about our clients' results here, and let's talk about like our philosophy. How do we help people get these results? How do we look at business differently than other people? That's allowing these PTs that have failed or struggled in other mentorship programs to suddenly join us, and within 6 months find themselves at $40,000, $50,000 a month. Like Tony Liu, he just joined the program. He was in other programs for 2 years, never broke 10K a month. Joined our program, within 6 months, he's doing $50,000 a month. What is it about our philosophy then that you think causes PTs that we're close to kind of giving up and throwing in the towel to allow them to break through past probably 80% of cash practices in the country?
I think because we're doing it. We've done it. We know what it's, we're doing it within our practices. Not only that, but the highest level physical therapists in the cash pay world pick up on that. Mm-hmm. And because they pick up on that, they want to be part of the team. Yeah. And because of that, they are part of the team. So when you get a group of individuals that are the highest operators in the cash pay space, who run their own practices, are doing it within their practices, it's just plug and play. So I think that is the big thing. It's not like we're going off of theory. It's like, hey, this is what's working in our practice. Rinse and repeat, copy and paste. It's not, there's no theory on it. I think that's a big part of it, is we know it works because we're doing it. I think that's the biggest one. And we attract people that are doing very well. And because they're doing really well, they want to be part of the team. And then they are able to help others that struggled, in other coaching programs where it's based on theory because they don't have their own practice. Mm-hmm. They're not focused on scaling their own practice anymore. It's all about a coaching business. And so that's where they get kind of lost. Because it's based on theory. So but I'm curious on what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a huge part of it. Like every single one of our coaches started as a client, and now all of them but one have a 7-figure practice that is immensely profitable, that allows them to take vacations, that affords them the time to coach and work within our company. And I know for a fact they don't do it for the money. You don't do it for the money. We know what we're paying everybody. Everyone does it because A, we changed their life, and B, they want to give other PTs that same life-changing transformation. They want to be a part of what it is that we're building. But what makes it like special isn't just that the coaches pretty damn special that you're running the most successful cash physical therapy practice probably in the world. And we're able to look at what's working and test new things in that practice and then teach it to all the others. But what really makes that special and different from what other programs are doing is that, one, most programs are only focused on getting you good enough results so that you don't get to ask for a refund or you don't charge back. And so they want to have as scalable as a company as possible. So they only teach one or two frameworks inside of that program because they don't have the team to support working on all the other things that are required in order for you to be successful. So maybe they have a sales coach, maybe they have like a marketing person to help you do workshops, or maybe to help you do ads. But those are two out of the 6 core components that you need in order to build a successful business. Now, our philosophy has always been that we're always going to teach what is working the best today with the ever-changing landscape that we find ourselves in. And so we release new curriculum about every 6 months so that everyone is always at the forefront of what's working the best today. And we're only able to do that because our team is 12 business owners, 12 entrepreneurs all working together, all with their own specialty that they bring to the table to enhance that. So when we say that we have coaches that are all actually running their businesses and we're teaching what is working, that doesn't just mean ads. It doesn't just mean sales. It means what's working in terms of how are we collecting data as efficiently as possible? How are we making decisions on that data? How are we reverse engineering the path to get to the goals that we set for ourselves? How are we modifying and innovating on our sales systems? How are we getting people to show up pre-sold before we even speak to them? How are we running ads? How are we doing workshops? How are we hiring people? How are we retaining those people? What order are we hiring people in? It's like all of these factors are essential with building a successful business. Whereas if you only focus on marketing and sales, your revenue might grow, maybe your profit is growing, but if you're not simultaneously simplifying your business in every single key component, well, then your business is just getting more and more chaotic as it grows. So that takes me to our second philosophy, which is what Ben and I want for ourselves and what we want for everybody else. It's freedom. We don't want to be slaves to a machine that we built. We want to be able to live life on our own terms. We want to be able to make as much money as we want. We want to be able to take those trips. And we know that the only way we can get what we want is if we help enough other people get what they want. And so we don't want people to build profitable or like big revenue practices that don't have any profit. We want to help you scale in a way where your personal wealth is growing each and every month in the way that you do that. Talk to me about, in Mastermind, some of the stories that you've seen of clients and the journey for actually like making that happen, like the mistakes that most practice owners make that make their life a living hell when their practice grows versus the practice owners like Frank Allen, who go from $12,000 a month to now $124,000 a month and has more personal freedom than he ever thought would be possible as a PT.
Yeah, I think it's really beginning with the end in mind, like being able to craft what do you want to get your life to look like and be able to reverse engineer what needs to happen within your business. For me, I did that early on, and that's what a lot of people do too, where they were doing a bunch of workshops.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I don't, kids and family, I don't want to be doing workshops on the weekends, weekday nights. So if that's not a viable option, why even start that right now if I know that's not what's, let's say that works, not to keep doing that, right? So it's like figuring out what type of, and some people might be okay with that. Maybe that's what fills their cup is workshops, and by all means, we can do that. We can help you out with that. But it's really like thinking about what actually scales and what actually allows you to scale in a way that is efficient, not just monetary wise, where you can still bring a healthy profit, but also efficiently from a time freedom standpoint. How do you start replacing yourself? How do you start hiring on and bringing the right people in? How do you retain those people? Really growing a team on it to be able to replace some of that. So I think it's the people that know that what type of life they want to have, and then be able to put things in place in their business that allows them to do that in the long haul.
Mm-hmm. I think that's another fundamental principle that we focus on in our company. Whereas most programs that are out there, their promise is more revenue. That's really the end goal. That's all they're really trying to help you do. That's why they're just teaching you like, all right, set up these Google ads, you'll get more patients, or set up these, do this SEO, or do these Facebook ads. It's always like one of those things. But what I love about our company is that it's centered around, what do you actually want in your life? Like, why'd you start your practice? What's the lifestyle that you actually want to have? And what is the income that is required to live that lifestyle? And then doing the simple math that for some reason nobody wants to do, or just hasn't thought to do for their clients of, okay, this is the lifestyle you want to have, and this is how much it costs. This is how much your business needs to profit every single month, which means your revenue needs to be here, which means you need this many PTs in order to get there. Okay, based off of that and the time that you have available, here's what your rates need to be. And here's the marketing strategy that makes the most sense for you in this moment. Because it's not that one strategy is better than all the other ones. Like, you're running Google ads, you have referrals, you're doing SEO, you run meta ads, you're creating content, you're doing all the things, but it's the order that you do them that's important. Why do you think other programs don't do that? Why aren't they designing their programs to actually give people what it is that they truly want?
Yeah, I think it was something you actually said a few weeks ago that, like, 'cause I was thinking about that too. And you brought up a good point. It's the infrastructure. To be able to support Facebook meta ads are really complicated to run. Some of these marketing channels, they're very complicated to be able to, on our side of things, to be able to fulfill on, because it needs to be so high touch. And I think these other coaching companies look at that. It's not that they're smart. They're smart enough to figure it out. You said this too. You're like, they're smart enough to figure this out. So it's not an intelligence issue. It's that for them to provide this type of support, they don't know how to do that in a profitable way.
Mm.
And because it is so high touch and these things are so complicated, that the coaching program has to have the team to be able to fulfill on delivering that.
Mm.
And so I think that's with where they want to go. They haven't been able to crack that code on the support level.
Yeah.
Or they just don't want to actually have those quote unquote headaches, because it does take a lot on our end to be able to make sure people get results. But at the end of the day, we figured it out. We figured out how to do that in a way that we can continue to grow and scale and keep helping more people while giving them the support that they need. And I think that a lot of the coaching programs just struggled to do that. And I think also goes back to, like, they're not at the forefront. They're still coaching things that work for their practice, before they sold, or, people that don't even have practices altogether.
Yeah.
They're just not at the forefront of it. Like, for us to continue to grow for ProKinetics, I got to keep testing things. I can't just coast, and ProKinetics is like my main focus. Like, that's my main role in clinical marketers, keep pushing ProKinetics so we can figure out what is working, so we can continue to stay at the forefront. That's my sole role within clinical marketers. It's not marketing, it's not sales. It's all based on staying at the forefront. And, when somebody's starting a coaching program, it's hard for them to be able to be at the forefront of both at the same time. It's just not possible. Like, it'd be impossible for me to, like, run clinical marketer and be at the forefront of what's working from marketing and sales perspective, And so when you see a coaching program, it's very difficult to be at the forefront of both.
Yeah.
So if they have a successful coaching business, it's very difficult to have a successful practice, because to be at the forefront of both, I can also argue that they probably don't have the life that you want either, because there would be no work-life balance or any ability to really not work 68 hours trying to be at the forefront of keeping pace with what's working in both industries. Just complete transparency on that. But yeah,
or they just have to charge a ton just to so they wouldn't need as many clients, so that they could give them even close to the level of support that we're able to provide people. I think that what you mentioned kind of hits on the other thing. Like, we have the infrastructure, because I have been a part of some really bad coaching programs that I did everything that they said. They weren't very reachable. There wasn't a whole lot of support. And even though I was doing everything that they said, I wasn't getting the results that I was expecting to get. And they're what they would say is basically like, just work harder, or you're not trying hard enough, or just be patient, just keep doing it, it'll work out. And that pissed me off. And I speak to a lot of PTs that feel the same way about their program, where they've gotten some results, but they're starting to realize it's like, this is not going to get me where I'm trying to go at the rate that I'm trying to get there. And so when we created Clinical Marketer, when we created the Limitless DPT program, when we created the Performance Mastermind program, our core promise was that we are going to provide more support than anyone else is willing or able to provide. That's why every single one of our clients gets one-on-one coaching with an actual practice owner, or someone who has done it or sold their practice, where they get monthly calls to go over their KPIs, where we teach them all the things that they actually need to learn, not just meta ads. Because to me, I know every single person is capable of finding success and becoming the ultimate version of themselves. But most people, they need guidance, they need support, because there's the mental game that holds everyone back from being able to reach that level. And the only way to expedite the learning curve with the mental game is proximity to people who have actually done it. And so a lot of other programs, they're not finding the results because you're just not getting the support that you need, or you don't have the proximity to, get on calls and be around other business owners that are forcing you to think a little bit bigger and believe in yourself and take a little bit, what some would consider like riskier gambles. And so for me, we wanted to create the mastermind that we wanted to be a part of, one where the company's growth rate never outpaced the client success rate, where anyone can join. And we created the environment where anyone, regardless of what stage they're at in their entrepreneurial journey, is capable of finding success. Whereas I think a lot of other programs are really just built for the people who are going to be successful anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we do have, I think one part that we are fortunate to have is the people that join. There's really two people, in my opinion, that get into the cash pay space and start their own practice. One, that they start their own practice because they just want to be able to treat the way they want to.
Yeah.
Then there's another group that started a business because they actually enjoy the business side of things and want to be able to help more people and grow and scale.
Yeah.
We are fortunate in the sense that we attract the latter. We attract the people that actually want to grow a business. I think some of these other coaching programs struggle a little bit because they're attracting people that probably shouldn't be starting their business, and they get stuck because you're getting into, like, if you just want to treat the way that you want to treat, there's so many cash practices hiring now. That's completely different. You don't need to start your own practice, honestly. So I think that is something that we are kind of fortunate to have, is based on the people that we attract to.
100%. Yeah, we are extremely blessed. We have the best clients ever. And if you're wondering if you might be a great client, ask yourself, are you willing to do hard things? Or are you opting into lead magnets and webinars and going after freebies because you somehow believe that business is easy, you can have a lifestyle business, and if you're just a great clinician, you'll be successful. No need to master and learn these business fundamentals. If that's you, you're not a good fit. Ben and I have gone through every challenge you can possibly imagine in growing a business, and we are the only coaches that are out there. I haven't seen anyone admitting this, is that business is really fucking hard. There are so many things that you have to learn, so many skills, so many new beliefs that you have to adopt in order to get where you're trying to go. We have to rewire our entire brain from the limiting beliefs that our environment and our childhood basically indoctrinated us into. And that's a really tough journey. That's why business is hard. If we all already believed that building $1 million business was extremely easy and we just followed the data, we'd all get there really, really fast. It's all the mental crap that prevents us from actually getting there. And so, yeah, we have the best clients because they come into our experience because we're upfront about, are you willing to do hard shit? Because you don't just have a lead problem. Yeah, you need more leads. But how good are you at converting strangers into clients? How good are you at retaining those people? How good are you at solving problems and staying confident in absolute chaos so that other people will look at you and be like, I want to follow that person? Because if you're not worth following, well, then you can't build the team, or you'll, at the very least, You'll be able to bring people on, but you'll never retain them because they don't look at you as someone that by following, they can get further than they could have on their own. And those are all the things you got to learn. And if that's you and you want to learn how to do that, and you want to face reality so that you can change reality and develop all these skill sets, build all these systems, and work directly with 7-figure business owners who have been where you are and know how to get to where it is you're trying to go, where you have time freedom, financial freedom, and mental freedom. You have peace of mind, your wealth grows every day, and your business starts to run itself. Well, then I highly recommend going to clinicalmarketer.com, hitting the apply button. We'll take a deep dive into your business. What is the life you're trying to create for yourself? So we can tell you exactly what kind of practice you need to build in order to create that life for you, and then reverse engineer it. So you have a pretty good timeline of when you'll be able to get there and what numbers, what strategies, what systems you need to get there faster, easier, and with less headache. Go to clinicalmarketer.com and hit that apply button. You'll have a call directly with me, and more than happy to help you reverse engineer your practice. Anything to add, Ben?
Give us a 5-star on the podcast.
That's right. Give us a 5-star on the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you all for listening, spending this time with us today. Hope you have a really good one, and we'll see you next week for the Cash Physical